All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it's time to talk about a subject we haven't talked about in a little bit, and that has to do with Sony's PSN linking requirements on Steam and on PC, which obviously a lot of people don't like because, quite frankly, nobody really wants to risk their Steam accounts by linking it to one of the most hacked and one of the most compromised systems out there, which is PSN. If you wanted to do that, you would just get a PS5 and go make a PSN at that point, but they think that they can somehow convert people from PC to PS5, which is actually usually the other way around. Usually people get fed up with console and end up going to PC when they can afford it because obviously it's a little more expensive to do that. But with all that being said, the PSN account requirement is something that is highly controversial. We know that by now, talking about this for months. But one of the reasons why I want to bring this up is because a recent comment that was made by the company's president that says that it's necessary for the requirement to be there in order for people to play games safely.
Put it in!
You're facing the wrong way, sir.
All right, give me the money!
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, what Sony is trying to do right here in front of our eyes is to pull a politician, right? They're trying to enact something that people don't like. They're trying to make a rule that people don't like, and they're trying to hide it under the guise of safety. They're trying to tell you, hey, come accept this thing that you clearly don't like. We promise to keep you safe if you do it. They try to utilize safety as a means to get their way, as a means to try to push something that they know people are not going to like. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make it any less bullshit what they're trying to do. So let's get into this article, guys, from PC Gamer. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says Hiroki Totoki admitted that the requirement invites pushback, but Sony wants to maintain control over its games. I want to be very clear, okay? I want to be very clear. I don't know if I can be as clear as I'm about to be right now. This has nothing to do with safety. There is not a modicum of safety that has anything to do with this whatsoever. This is furthest from safety as we could possibly be. The whole decision around PSN linking requirement is simply for two reasons. Number one, it allows them to easily ban people, right? So if they have a problem with you in any way, shape, or form, they can ban you, no ifs, ands, or buts, and Steam can't do anything about it. That's rule number one. But the most important reason why is because they want your data, ladies and gentlemen. That's really what it is. Your data is worth more than the game that they're selling you. They would rather have your data than have you buy the game. So they want your data so badly that they're willing to make it a requirement and take less sales from a video game. That way they can take your data and sell it for whatever amount that they sell it for. That's the real reason why. They want your data. They're willing to lose all these sales. They're willing to sell the game in less countries. They're willing to do all of this in order for them to get the data. And then on top of that, too, there's a third aspect that I forgot to even mention. It's so that they look better to investors, right? So Sony isn't looking too good, right? Sony right now has taken a lot of L's, and Sony has also got a lot of W's. They're kind of like in between for the most part, but the thing is their L's are massive, so it kind of takes away from their W's a little bit. But the reason why they want to force the PSN account linking is so that when they get to the earnings call and they talk to their investors, they can say, hey, we saw a massive surge of PSN accounts going from XYZ to XYZ. This is great. This is going to translate to sales on the PlayStation Store, blah, 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 whatever. It makes them look better to the investors the higher the number is. It's no different than a subscription service like Disney Plus, for example. The higher the number, the happier investors are, and the more that people would probably invest, depending on how successful the overall service is. So it says it's fair to say that Sony's insistence on requiring the PlayStation Network account for PC versions of its game is not widely popular. Don't expect Sony to back off on it anytime soon, though. Speaking in today's investors call, Sony President, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief Financial Officer Hiroki Totoki said PSN integration is necessary in order to ensure everyone can safely enjoy its games. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. I want you to know that. I want them to know that. I want everybody to know. That is absolute bullshit. There is nothing more safe about having your account linked to PSN. If anything, it makes your account less safe by linking to PSN. If your information is tied to PSN in any way, and that son of a bitch gets hacked like it has been 10 times over the past XYZ amount of years, think about that. You're not any safer than you were prior. You are less safe. So it has nothing to do with safety. It has everything to do with what I mentioned earlier. We've learned a lot, Totoki said. The way they face issues regarding PC, For instance, the PlayStation accounts that we have offered by offering them, for instance, sometimes that tends to invite pushback. But for the live service games, in order to maintain order of the gaming so that anybody can enjoy the game safely, we need to create an environment conducive to that and, of course, enjoying the game freely. Having some restrictions, we may not call it a rule, but to ask users and gamers to follow that manner, that balance is very important. We have to continue to seek the best way to achieve this. I like how they mention the live service games, right? Which I don't think people would complain about that much in comparison to what I'm about to mention. But you talk about the live service games, but you're not talking about the requirement of linking in order to play single player games. That is a huge factor, right? You are missing out on a ton of sales because you're making this entire thing required on single player games that you know people actually want to play. You know people aren't playing your live service shit. Obviously, look at Concord. People aren't playing your live service games, so it's not that big of a deal. But when it comes to the single player games, the games that people are actually playing, like Ghost of Tsushima, or even God of War, right? God of War Ragnarok. All these single player games, Spider-Man 2 is about to come out. All that stuff. You can't play it without a PSN account. It's ridiculous. And that's where people are complaining. They're like, hey, what the hell does safety have to do in a single player game? I'm not interacting with anybody. I'm not playing with anybody. I'm not talking to anybody. So what does safety have to do with any of that? It's because safety has nothing to do with this. Nobody's talking about safety when it comes to this. That's the furthest thing from their mind. They don't give a shit about your safety. They just want your data. That's basically it. The quote was translated from Japanese to English on the fly by a human translator, to be clear, and is a little rough. But the point is clear enough. Sony wants to maintain some kind of control over its games, and the PSN requirement is an easy way to do that. And maybe it is, but it's also tremendously unpopular with PC gamers. The most obvious example of that is Helldivers 2, which launched without a PSN requirement because of supposed technical issues and enjoyed tremendous success until May, when Sony announced that the PSN-free grace period was over. The blowback was furious, to the point that Sony was forced to back down. Although not after first trying to power through it and doing untold damage to the goodwill of Helldivers 2 and that what they had enjoyed up until that point. Any thought Sony might drop the idea completely went out the window very quickly, though. Just weeks after Helldivers 2 blow up, Ghost of Tsushima's PC port was delisted on Steam in nearly 200 countries because of the requirement for its newly added multiplayer mode shortly after that. Sony confirmed that God of War Ragnarok would also require the login. In October, Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered came to Steam with the same requirement attached. That makes Totoki's comments a little tough to swallow at face value. He talked about live service games specifically, and fair enough, if you want to use our servers, you have to play by our rules is a reasonable ask. But God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Zero Dawn are single-player games, so what's the need for a PSN account there? And that's exactly my point, man. The single-player games are what people are complaining about. Nobody wants to make a PSN account for a single-player game. If your argument for the account linking is safety, then that doesn't apply for a single-player game. Thus, there should be no issue removing the link requirement. But let's be real, it has nothing to do with safety, and they're just not telling you what it's really about. At some point in time, they're going to have to be honest with you and everybody else, but whether or not that's recent or later on in the future, time will tell. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.